I completed 500 calculus practice questions so I wouldn't fail math in uni. And it was all for nothing. Almost. And just in case you think I'm lying or not, here's the whole book plus some of these as well. And if you look over here, we're gonna be experimental and explain the backstory as the video goes on. Plus, according to these people, I take too long to start a video, so all you're gonna get for an introduction is just... Okay, cool, you're welcome. Day 0 of this journey started in April of 2025 when my friend who's studying in Florida told me she was doing all 3 calculuses for her computer science course. And as someone starting a computer engineering course this September, surely they wouldn't do more calculus than what we were gonna do. We're dealing with circuits after all, and the first thing you see when you open an electronics book is a derivative, so I'd have my work cut out for me. I didn't know how much or what the exact pinpoints I should have attacked were, since the course name for my math course was just called Applied Mathematics. But they must have just been bunching all the essential mathematical concepts into one, and calculus was surely part of that group. And as a recently unemployed gap year individual at the time, what better way to spend my time than prepare for uni? I could also use a really cool YouTube title like My Brain After 1,000 Calculus Questions, because surely there'd be a reason for me to practice that much if I'm entering uni. My tools at the time were these 2 essential practice books by Chris McMullen and Calculus Made Easy by Sylvanus Thompson, which honestly got me through the first 100 questions just fine. Yeah, like we're already done with our first 100. It should be noted that I had already done calculus in my previous associate's degree, but it wasn't the best class overall, and I remembered practically nothing for it. So those 100 questions were great refreshers on the usual derivative, power, product, quotient, and finally chain rules. I had skipped over some stuff on functions and limits, and I actually talked to this one person from the J Schultz server who showed me some of their work as a game dev uni student. And it did involve those function questions, so I really should go back and refresh and just update myself on limits and what the bloody hell are you? Shortly after my first 100 questions on calculus, I contracted chickenpox. How? You tell me. The only places I'd been in the past 2 weeks leading up to my symptoms were the gym, barber, and the GP surgery. My life really needs to be more exciting. Maybe I should have taken it as a sign from the universe that I really shouldn't be doing this, because honestly, that wasn't even a sign. It was a hit. And yes, chickenpox is the thing that kids get and it's annoying for them, but as an adult, for some reason, it's pure agony. I had never had a fever that bad in my life, where every sip of water would give me the shivers, but the more I didn't drink, the hotter I got. And that's not even considering the mouth ulcers that make you incapable of swallowing anything in general, far less anything with a pinch of salt. I did have the itching under control for the most part, except for that one night where it just wouldn't stop and it felt like ants crawling on my skin, and I didn't sleep until 3 AM. I diverged a lot into this whole chickenpox story, but I feel like I have to raise at least a little bit awareness of how crappy adult chickenpox is. And it could even lead to pneumonia. Like, this thing held me down for 2 weeks. I think I got like maybe 10 calculus questions done throughout that entire time. And shout out to my aunt who I'm staying with for uni, because she really was the only one making sure I didn't actually unalive, either from the chickenpox or me committing it myself to escape the feeling of chickenpox. Okay, calculus, whatever, let's continue. After April became a non-starter month after the first week for me, from May on, I reverted back to do some work on functions. Calculus Made Easy doesn't cover that, so I picked up a copy of Calculus by James Stewart. And at that point, we were able to surpass the 200 questions mark. But actually, those questions are on functions, they're not on calculus. Okay, do you see the title of the book? And do you see the questions that are in the book? Okay, most of the questions were domain questions, types of functions, and kind of those kind of questions. But when we got to limits, I was not a fan of this book at all. It taught it in a more pure math fashion that I really wasn't a fan of because, well, I'm an engineering student. Like, I really don't care about the true definition of a limit. If you do, I'm happy for you. I'm not happy though. Still, I had just one more trick up my sleeve. In collecting resources back in April, I stumbled upon a whole series of calculus lectures by a Professor Leonard. And there are a ton of different calculus courses online, but when I clicked on this video, it was like, as a fellow gym, bro myself, it was very, very happy to see a fellow nerd being so muscular. Brought a tear to my eye. I didn't even script this. This is just my honest to God feeling about this whole subject. Luckily, he did have some videos on limits, and I thought maybe they wouldn't be as boring as the book. This was around June time, and I had flown back to St. Lucia to see my family once more before I started uni. So my locked in calculus phase was kind of put on a halt, as I was focusing on seeing friends, doing some work for my dad as a semi-employee, and still making YouTube videos. But I'm happy to report that the Professor Leonard videos were actually really amazing. He taught things in a clear way, showing logically how things come to be and why they are the way they are. Example being, that was the first time I understood why this limit thing represents a derivative, as my previous calculus class for my associate's degree just told us it was. Why? They didn't care, but he did. He was also genuinely funny and had genuine interest in what he was teaching and if his students understood what he was teaching. And as a result, you become a student like that one kid on the right that just can't stop laughing. And from there on out, really all I did was watch his videos and do some correlating practice questions from Calculus by James Stewart. Honestly, it felt just like regular school, but it just so happens that the lecturer was amazing. And even though school hadn't started yet, I felt the repercussions of doing this calculus work. As previously mentioned, concepts like the derivative and integral show up in electronics, and with my current project for the next video, electronics plays a big part in it. If you want to see more on what this is, you can check the Patreon link below for an early peek. And in general, the idea of tending to infinity comes up so often in the engineering world that not having at least a good baseline level of calculus makes things a lot harder to grasp. And so if I felt this way already, then by the time school starts, I'll be unstoppable. It would have still been nice to know what exact factor of calculus to work on though, since I didn't really know if we'd have time to dabble in vector calculus, so maybe I could just hold off on calculus 3 for now, and if I did the next 500 just on calculus 1 and a little on calculus 2, I'll be a master at whatever calculus sections we get. And so by September 2nd, 2025, I completed 420 calculus questions. I'm recording this a little bit to just explain some of the stuff I did in terms of topics and that kind of thing. After doing the normal differentiation stuff, so we did second order differentiation and all that kind of stuff, we moved on to optimization, max and min. We did graph sketching, which I only did about like 3 questions on because, well, I had a quota to reach, and if I were to just do graph sketching questions, it would take me like 5 years. But then we moved on to integration, but we started off using Riemann sums, and then we went on to the fundamental theorem of calculus, and that's really where I stopped. I could have gone further, especially as the video goes on, you'll see why I could have gone further, but that's where the 420 questions got me to at that point. However, we finally got our timetable that day, along with a little deeper of an explanation on what each course entails. I could finally start tailoring my calculus work accordingly. In retrospect, the degree did have an inquiry page that maybe I could have at least tried to use all the way from April, but we're here now. Let's just see what I can do to tailor my math to make sure that I can do the best possible. Are you? All of that, all of it, not a single mention of calculus in my entire course. All of it was for nothing. I was no better prepared now than I was in April. And I did go to an open day in March, I should say, where I saw a little bit of the math covered, which did involve some matrices. But my friend in Florida had to do all of the calculuses before she could start linear algebra, but surely it would be the same here, right? No matter the fact that curriculums are different in different parts of the world. Although I guess technically we're doing matrix algebra and not linear algebra, whatever the difference is. And so finally, at 420 questions, what was left to do? And just finish another 80 of them, because I mean 500 in a video title sounds a lot better than 420. But wait, I did say it didn't go to waste, and in fact it did not. And it's at this point where I have to stop the script and alter the ending. Hey, I'm sick now, so if I sound weird and halfway on the doorstep to heaven,
Like, I
or the other place, that's why. But initially, I wrote a pretty good redemption-esque paragraph on how, despite calculus not being on my course, I still gained a really good understanding of mathematical intuition that would help me in any math venture I'd have going forward. And while that's all still true, because calculus can find itself in many different topics, despite what my course bio said, the actual content of the semester includes these topics. It wasn't for nothing. Okay, am I peeking, by the way? It wasn't for nothing. It wasn't for nothing, okay? It was, okay. Oh my god. Even though I was trying to convince you that even though it was for nothing, it wasn't. But like, let's be honest with ourselves here. Moral of the story, however, just please look up what you're doing in your course before you just make an assumption. You could probably like call a lecturer or ask somebody from the school. Just do anything before you dive headfirst into something and it ends up being complete useless garbage. With that being the case, I really could have gone on and done the 1000 questions. But as soon as I found out my course might not have any calculus in it, I packed up everything and recorded this script. So shout out to Jackie DeValo. I don't really have any extra Patreon content for this video, but still, please subscribe and support if you can. You know how it is.